Welcome to this edition of Labor Vision. I'm Bob Delaney, Executive Director of the Institute for Labor Studies and Research. Labor Vision, a production of the Institute, focuses on topics of importance to working Rhode Islanders. We hope you enjoy this edition.
This event is being live streamed, and of course we have Paul Hubbard. What happened to Paul Hubbard? Oh, you're over there. Okay, get my good side, will you please? And we also want to thank Rhode Island Labor History Society board member, very talented Alex Lucchini, for the music, and he's gone too. My brothers and sisters, this evening, we have three remarkably talented, well-deserved honorees. And Jack Callissy. You knew it was coming. Okay. You may remember some years ago that the heart and soul of this organization was Dr. Scott Malloy. And he stepped down a couple of years ago, not from the organization, but from leadership organization. And fortunately, Jimmy Parisi stood up, and he has continued to lead us to be the great organization that we've always been and will continue to be. Thank you, Jimmy. Jimmy, I'd like to have you come up for a couple of remarks. I thanked Alex.
Follow the script.
Alex, thank Alex.
That's Alex.
Hi, Alex.
Wait.
Walk on with you in your arms, and you never walk alone. You'll never walk alone.
Good evening, everybody. We would be not doing justice if we didn't acknowledge the difficulties of the last 2 years since we last met. And it seemed lonely, and that's difficult in a time of labor where we depend on solidarity and unity. So tonight, we're going to reunify. Because when we walk through a storm, we keep our chins up high. And we're not afraid of the dark. And at the end of the storm, there's a golden sky, and that sweet silver song of the lark. So we walk on through the wind, and we walk on through the rain, though our dreams may be tossed and blown. So please join me. Walk on, with hope in the heart, and never walk alone. Walk on with
Great job. And at this time, we'd like to introduce the president of the Rhode Island Labor History Society, James Parisi.
Thank you, Jimmy, and good evening, everyone. We're so glad to be here in person after postponing and then canceling our banquet back in 2020. I want to start this evening with a couple of words about Richard Trumka. Richard Trumka was born in Pennsylvania in a small town near Pittsburgh. He was the son of a miner, became a miner himself, and then went to law school and became a lawyer for the United Mine Workers of America. Richard rose up to be president of the United Mine Workers in 1982, where he served in that role until 95, when he was elected Secretary-Treasurer of the AFL-CIO. He remained Secretary-Treasurer of the AFL-CIO until 2009, until his untimely death 2 weeks ago today. I was living in Maryland when Richard was president of the mine workers, and there were some miners in our state, and we followed that Pittston strike closely. It was probably one of the most notable things about his career. He led a 9-month-long strike against Pittston Coal Company and won. This guy understood the importance of talking to the community about the strike, because the real issues of the strike were employer contributions to health and welfare funds and retirement funds, and the whole community around those mines relied on that. And he organized them, committed civil disobedience, didn't care if they were going to get thrown in jail, and ultimately prevailed. He was a terrific leader of the mine workers, a terrific leader of the national labor movement. And again, his untimely passing 2 weeks ago is heavy on my heart. And if you'd all join me in a moment of silence in the memory of Richard Trumka. Thank you. So the Rhode Island Labor History Society is a group of amateurs who get together on Friday nights 6 times a year to plan activities over pizza and homemade wine. And if anyone wants to know why I'm really the president of the Rhode Island Labor History Society, it's because I'm a winemaker and bring my hooch to the meetings. You got to keep people happy. We are dedicated to preserving the history of Rhode Island's working class and their unions alive. Years ago, there were labor history societies all over the country and all over New England. We are the last labor history society left standing in New England, and we're very proud that we persevere. So we try and do a lot of activities. This is our biggest deal, our annual banquet. We obviously postponed last year. 2 years ago, we were here in this room when we honored Tim Byrne of the Plumbers and Pipe Fitters, Elizabeth Nord, textile worker union leader back in the 20s and 30s, my friend and colleague Colleen Callahan with the Rhode Island Federation of Teachers, Joey DeFrancesco, who's a musician and historian and was famous for Joey Quits, the Renaissance, in the grand style, and posthumously we honored Dennis Lavallee of the Teamsters. We hold annual Labor Day addresses. 2 years ago, we heard from firebrand Justin Kelly of the Painters. Last year, despite the pandemic, we had a good crowd to hear a great speech by URI professor and AUP leader Miriam Ruhlman. We co-hosted an event about workers at Gorham Factory in 2019, and also sponsored a tour of Slater Mill from a union perspective back in 2019. Due to the pandemic, we went to some online activities. We hosted a 4-part online speaker series that Miriam organized for us, including Dark Work, the Business of Slavery in Rhode Island, Female Networks of Labor, how making a living in the early 19th century Providence was so important. Pat Crowley, who's in the audience somewhere. Pat did a speech on revisiting Salesville, a deeper exploration of the Salesville Massacre of 1934. And then we had a timely talk about the Federation of Fraternal Order, police unions in the history of the labor movement. So we tried to keep things going online, although we much prefer being in person. We spent money to co-host events with the Museum of Work and Culture. They did an online speaker series last year. And importantly, we give $100 checks to all students who do labor-oriented history projects as part of National History Day. A couple of years ago, we gave some $100 checks to some students. Last year, maybe because participation was lower due to the pandemic, there were no labor projects. But we look forward to another year giving more cash to students who do labor-oriented projects for History Day. So spread the word. Do a project on labor history. It pays in many ways, including financially. This coming year, we're going to continue our annual Labor Day address. Autumn Giat is going to do a speech on Labor Day itself, Monday, September 6th at 10 o'clock. We always go to Mashassack Cemetery in Central Falls. We're also going to have music by Mary Lee Partington, so come by on Labor Day at 10 o'clock and celebrate with the Labor History Society. We gave an annual $500 donation to the Museum of Work and Culture so they can open for free of charge for several days around Labor Day, and we're co-sponsoring a screening of a movie that's coming out, Slatersville. It's a movie about America's first mill village. That's at the Museum of Work and Culture on September 3rd and 4th, and we're going to have some other events this coming year. If you're not a member, consider joining us. I'd be remiss if I was president and didn't ask you to put your hand in your wallet and join us. Dues are ridiculously low at $15 a year, $25 for 2 years, and brochures are on the table. And due to us recruiting some board members who don't have gray hair like I do, we even have Venmo capability. So there's some barcodes on the table for those who want to donate without paper money. You're all encouraged to join us and donate to us and be part of us, because, as I said, it's kind of sad when all of New England had labor history societies, people coming together to keep our history alive, and we're the last ones standing. But we're going to be standing for a long time with your support. Enjoy the evening.
Thank you, Jimmy. As Jimmy said, we are an all-volunteer board. We meet on Friday nights. We have a wonderful time. We have a fine array of pizza from Twins Pizza in North Providence, as well as a fine array of vino from Parisi Vineyards. So you'll have a good time. And we want to just quickly read the names of all the Rhode Island Labor History Society Executive Board. It won't take me long. President James Parisi, Vice President Kim Weinman, Treasurer Danielle DiRocco, Co-Treasurer Nadine Gregg, Secretary Michael D'Amico, Adam Aquilante, Catherine Colette O'Reilly, Pat Crowley, Joey DiFrancesco, Vicki Gregg, Autumn Giat, Karen Hazard, Rob Hill, Valerie Lawson, Alex Lucchini, Karen McInich, Ryan McIntyre, Scott Malloy, Alvin Reeves, Miriam Ruhlman, Jim Riley. Somebody check the bar downstairs to see if he's around. Alex Santoro, Linda Tioli, and Mary Murphy Walls. Did you notice something about that list? It's all the popular kids. So if you want to be one of the popular kids and hang out with me on Friday nights every once in a while, and the rest of us cool kids, I suggest you join this organization and pay that measly $15 a year. I'm sure we're going to get some new folks here. So brothers and sisters, we had a couple of losses recently in our family. And with these dark COVID years, didn't have a chance really to do some things about it, but some of you remember the iconic Marcia Reback, Providence Teachers Union, Rhode Island Federation, Teachers and Health Professionals, and the toughest woman I've ever met in my life, as well as the brilliant Dr. Dorothy Donnelly, AAUP at URI. And we also want to remember this is the 15th anniversary of a fellow who I think is one of the hardest working union guys I've ever met. His legacy runs deep with all of us. This is the 15th anniversary of the loss of Chuck Schwartz. So if you want to. So let's take a moment to remember these fabulous people. We have a practice at our organization that board members introduce honorees. Secretary-Treasurer of the AFL-CIO and historian in his own right, here is Pat Crowley to introduce the first honoree.
Thank you, Brother Riley. Brothers and sisters, welcome. I have a confession to make. When I grow up, I want to be like Jack Calisi. Now, I know what you're thinking. That somehow implies Brother Jack is a grown-up himself. And as we all know, the jury is still out on that question. But hear me out for a minute. Jack is simply just one of the coolest people to ever work for the labor movement. I mean, this is a guy who entered college with one name, went through 4 years of college with a different name, left college going back to the original name, but was smart enough to troll his younger brother so that when he got to the same school, he gets stuck with the name he changed it to and couldn't change it back. Now that shows foresight. And I'm not saying that this dynamic duo did that deliberately, but I know if it's caused enough confusion within the ranks of the labor movement, you can just imagine how much trouble it's caused the bosses over the years. So intentional or not, it sure worked. Now, if you've ever spent any time with Jack, you know he has a lot of stories to tell. For instance, there was this one time, oh, wait a minute. Actually, the witnesses recounted their testimony in that case. There was this other time when, no, the statute of limitations is still out on that one. Now, there's this one story that I know that I think I can share. I'm not sure of all the details, but it involves skinny dipping, lost clothes, a long ride home, and artful dodging of the police department all the way from Vermont to Rhode Island. Now, the rest of the story can't really be shared in a family forum like this, but let's just say that's the nicest, cleanest story about Jack Calisi that I can share with you all tonight. Now, but my favorite story about Jack is about when he joined the labor movement back in the early 80s. He went to work for an organization that represented a few hundred healthcare workers in the state of Rhode Island. And within a few years, a few hundred turned into a few thousand. And within another few years, it turned into a few thousand more. And within the turn of less than a decade, Jack helped to organize almost 7,000 people in the state of Rhode Island and the area around New England into the labor movement. Now, when Jack and I got together a couple of weeks ago to talk about tonight and the things he wanted to share with everyone here, he told me a couple of things. One was a surprise and one wasn't a surprise. So first, the not surprise. I don't know if you know that Jack is not on Twitter. He's not on Facebook. I'm not even sure he knows what Instagram is. He's a classic old school organizer. He's more comfortable talking with workers in the break room or a picket line than mediated through the lens of social media. And while those tools have their point and their place in this crazy world that we live in, there's nothing like sitting down around a kitchen table talking with people about the benefits of organizing a union and to have them put their faith and trust, not in you as the organizer, but with their co-workers, with the working class. And that's the connection that is the most important to make as an organizer, and that is something that Jack Calisi can do every single day of the year. Now, the second thing he told me, I was surprised about it first, but when I thought about it, it was really clear why it wasn't really surprising. Jack told me one of his heroes is Stacey Abrams. So Stacey is the hero of the 2020 election cycle and one of the most important Americans that we have alive today. So while others were out raising money from Wall Street to buy the perfect TV ad, and while others were trying to do all kinds of attention-getting things, and while some people were catering the powers that be within the Democratic Party establishment, Stacey was out walking the streets of Georgia, meeting with people in church basements, talking with workers in union halls about the importance of voting. And while others were looking to take the credit, and while others were staging, media events, engaging in what some might call progressive performance art, Stacey was talking with working class people. And because of her and taking an organizer's approach, we kicked that bastard Trump out of office. We took over the United States Senate. And for the first time in a generation, the wind is at our backs when it comes to working class issues. Stacey made it very clear. One day longer, one day stronger. And that is Jack Callicy to a T. Jack's taught me that the fight isn't over the day you win or lose a union election. The fight's not over when the workers go back to work and leave the picket line. The fight isn't even over when you ratify the contract. The fight is never over. And it is my strongest advice to anyone here in this room who thinks of themselves as an organizer to spend a coffee or grab a beer, or many beers, or many, many beers with Jack Callicy and learn from someone who I look up to as an inspiration. Brother Jack, Stacey Abrams might be one of your heroes. You're one of mine. Brothers and sisters, Jack Callicy.
Well, most of all, I want to thank Patrick for letting me off easy. So thank you, and congratulations to fellow honorees tonight. So in 1982, I packed up a U-Haul and attached my car to the back of it, and me and Debbie got in, and we took little Emily, put her in the front seat, and I drove to my first union assignment in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I can tell you that was 1982, and never once since that time did I get up in the morning and feel like I was going to work. And all you know, brothers and sisters, how hard union work is, and nobody can do that for a living. You can only do it for a cause, and it's a timeless cause, and it's universal, and those that came before us and after us, there's nothing better than workers getting together and getting the power to make our world a better place. So for all these years since then, I've never felt I was going to work, and I'm very thankful for that. Now, in that time, I've done tons of things for the union. I've probably done hundreds of arbitrations, hundreds of contract negotiations, thousands of grievances, labor board cases, unemployment cases, flyers, pickets, and all that. But one thing that stands out differently than anything that I would like to talk to you about tonight is organizing. It's much harder, it's much more challenging, and it's much more rewarding than everything else. And the reason for that is that, you look up a grievance, you can look in a book, right? The Grievance Guide or El Khoury or all the books there are, and you can look at the cases and pretty much get a good idea of what to do, and you could tell the person you're representing with pretty good certainty the chances of winning. Or labor board cases, all those cases, you can look them up and read them. But when you're organizing, there are no guidelines, and there's no certainty. And it takes, in my career, really exceptional women to have a successful organizing drive, and I've met the greatest women in my career that led those campaigns, showed a lot of guts, a lot of courage, a lot of commitment. And when you think about it, everybody I met for the first time, you can't tell them we're going to win. In fact, you got to tell them that the likelihood is you're not going to win. You can't tell them you're going to get the cards. You can't tell them you're going to have an election. You can't tell them when the election is or if you're going to win. You can't tell them what their contract's going to look like. And you have to persuade them to take largely as a matter of faith to do something extraordinary. Because think about these people that you meet, and I'm looking around a bunch of my friends. They're working, they're busy, maybe they have families, all the things they're doing, and I'm asking them to do something extraordinary. Take on the power of the employer, stand in when the shit really hits the fan, talk to other people. That takes an enormous amount of courage and commitment. And so all these women that I have met on all these campaigns, great, great people, and they should be the ones that are getting this award. Now, it started in Westerly, and I'll just tell you one story and something that I learned. So I got the first lead. I went down to Westerly. It's a Sunday afternoon. I met this very polite, very soft-spoken, very quiet woman, small physically. And I told her about the organizing and what we had to do. When I left and I was driving up 95, I got this horrible feeling. And I was saying to myself, what did I do? Because when the shit hits the fan, and it's going to, she's going to crumble. And then she's going to hate me for the rest of her life. So I had to worry about that for 2 weeks. But I went back 2 weeks later, came around the corner, and there were cars all over the place. I knock on the door, and there's a living room full. And they had a computer printout, like a little bit of green and dark green, every employee, every shift, every unit, number of hours. And that woman, about a month later, led a delegation in to see Mr. Kirby. He was the president of the Washington Trust Bank and the Board of Trustees, and she demanded that they be neutral. They weren't. A few weeks later, she led a delegation of nurses into the CEO, who was cowering behind his desk, having the cards and demanding recognition. And while he was filling up his adult diapers, the secretary was in a hallway like this, not letting him look at the cards. And she went on to lead that union as a grievance chair and a president, and we've been through receivership, we've been through different purchases. But the lesson that I learned from that, never underestimate a woman because she's quiet and she's soft-spoken and somewhat shy. And by the way, I'm talking about Jackie Desmond, who's not here, a great woman. So that was 1987, and we went on to organize Memorial and Rhode Island Hospital in Fatima. And in doing so, every time was the same drill. Meeting people, small groups, meet them in their houses, in church basements, community centers, coffee shops. Once in a while, I would make a great sacrifice for the union and meet them in a bar. But over and over, meeting these folks and talking about the union and having them serve on the organizing committee. And all of these times that played out over and over again. And then over the last 22 years, we've organized Kent. We've gone back to organize all our hospitals wall to wall, any number of places. And during those 22 years, I've had the privilege to work with a coworker, fellow organizer who is as tough as they come, as determined as they come, as smart as they come. And we've organized 3,500 people in those last 22 years, and that's my coworker, Jean Jose. Now, I can tell you this, I'm 64, I will never get tired of it. And I will never have the thrill of an election victory diminish. Now, only about a month or two ago, we organized Prospect VNS Home Care Services. And I'll make a confession. Every time I've been to a vote count, no matter how confident I was the week before, I had the cards, good quality, a great committee. I will tell you, every time I go to a vote count, I feel like I'm going to throw up. There's nothing more terrifying than the thought of losing. No matter how much you think you did a good job, you're saying to yourself, my God, if we lose, I'm going to let these people down. And what an awful thing is to see the employer gloat if the union lost. But there's only a short time later that the best feeling in the world, and I will tell you, it is the best feeling in the world. You know, I love my brother, and it's a great feeling to sit down with him and get a nice bottle of Irish whiskey and pull the cork out and get ready for a good night. But a vote count, nothing's better than that. And you know how that works, because the neutral, right, dumps the ballots out and they separate them, yeses and nos. They're not counting them. But you're the union guy, you can count them. So while they're separating the ballots, you count the yeses, and you know before anybody else, you know that you won. And the beauty of that is when they go to announce it, you can turn around and you look at the faces of these great women and watch their reaction when they know they won. And there's nothing better than that. Now, I know this is about history. I'm going to close with a comment about the future. I hope when I wake up tomorrow morning, I've got an organizing lead at an area hospital. I hope that campaign is the ugliest, nastiest, bare-knuckle campaign I've had in my career. Because over 40 years have told me, when I get 20 women on an organizing committee, they will kick the shit out of the slickest union busters. They will outsmart any punk management labor lawyer, and they will serve humble pie to the CEO, and they will stuff that humble pie, I promise to be good, down his throat, not up somewhere. Right? I can't wait for tomorrow. Thank you.
Excuse me, Jack, you get to keep this. Jack, coming from somebody who organized for a long, long time and had been to hundreds and hundreds of vote counts, I know exactly what you were talking about. Yeah. Our next introducer of our next presenter is going to be he's a long-time Local 99 member, secretary of the Rhode Island Labor History Society, and he's the reason why we always have these wonderful benefits at this event every year, and it really adds a nice personality to the room. Mike D'Amico.
Nope. I want to raise that up. Can you hear me? All right, good. I can get my notes out. How's everybody doing today? Good? Let me just start by saying that Mike Daly, who we're honoring right now, he has a union bug as a birthmark on him. Somewhere. I know it. Now, I never seen it, but I know it's there. Believe me, I never seen it. Mike started his apprenticeship with Local 99 in 1977, following generations in the IBEWs, starting with his grandfather in the early 1900s. And that was long before they let Italians into the membership, let me tell you. I've known Mike for more than 30 years. And like most of you that know him would agree, Mike is a calm, soft-spoken gentleman, a real gentleman, and he is. And that's all true. But don't get him riled up, and don't piss him off, because I seen that ugly green Irish monster come out of his neck. And it's not a pretty sight, let me tell you. What impressed me the most about Mike was his constant dedication to serve his membership. He acted on his visions for the betterment of not only Local 99, but for the entire industry, present day and future. Mike possessed something I've never seen or saw, whatever your English. I know there's a lot of teachers here, so I gotta watch my grammar. In the past 5 local 99 business managers before him, and that was his ability to be in 3 places at once. And believe me, well, why not 4, right? 3, that's it. Yeah, but anyway, in between fighting for or against bills at the State House and town halls, between attending rallies, council board meetings, conferences, family functions, along with performing his regular daily business as a business manager, he always showed up to support everything and anything to do with his membership. Whether it was a parade, a ball game, an outing, a picnic, a bus trip, social events, countless charity and political fundraisers, Mike was always there in body and soul. He supported every idea that would create solidarity and bring people together, and that's big. A few banquets ago, the Labor History Society had their first 50-50 raffle here, which Mike had won. Lucky the Irish, right? When his ticket was pulled, without pause, he donated it back to the Labor History Society, and it was about $500. Now, me being Italian, I would have gave another 500. Yeah, right. I recently asked Mike to send me his bio, along with his list of boards, committees, and accomplishments, you know, during his tenure as an officer in Local 99. As I was reading the list to myself, I found it obvious that Mike was a very, very busy man. I mean, this guy was on more boards than Pittsburgh Paints. I later realized that Mike was being modest about himself with what he gave me. It was at last month's union meeting that Mike was awarded by the membership the status of Business Manager Emeritus of IBEW Local 99. I'm surprised I could even say that name. Emeritus. I've been practicing for a week. While the resolution for that status was read to our membership that evening, I could see there was much more to be told about Mike than what he gave me. The same resolution was read off at Mike's retirement dinner last Saturday, and many of you that were here tonight were there as well. So I made a condensed version to read to you tonight. So following 4 years as an apprentice, Mike served at Local 99 as a journeyman wireman, a foreman, a general foreman, a contractor. He faithfully served as Local 99 press secretary, treasurer, president, business manager, and business manager financial secretary. He was a trustee on Local 99 health and welfare, JT, and pension and annuity committees. He represented Local 99 by serving on the State Board of Examiners of Electricians, Blue Cross Blue Shield Labor Advisory Board, State Building Code Commission Board of Appeals, IBEW NECA Council on Industrial Relations, State Apprenticeship Council, Rhode Island AFL-CIO Executive Board, Providence Central Labor Council Executive Board, the Rhode Island Building Trades Executive Board, Rhode Island Metal Trades Vice President, Bill Rhode Island Executive Board, Rhode Island Labor Management Director and Secretary, and has made significant improvements to the state licenses laws that resulted in many protections for all electrical workers. Like I told you, he was busy. I don't know how he had time to have kids. Good thing you had your kids in the early years. But it's for these and many more reasons that the Rhode Island Labor History Society is honoring Mike. And I have Alvin Reeves of Local 99 organizer who would like to say a few words too.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed honorees, brothers and sisters from the labor movement. Today we're here to honor one of our brothers from the IBEW, Business Manager Emeritus, Michael Daly. I know many of you would be gracious to hear I had a whole Walter Cronkite special, but Mike beat me to it. And for those of you that don't know who Walter Cronkite is, he's like Snoop Dogg without the other stuff. So with Martha Stewart, let me say. But you know, the difference between a boss and a leader, a boss will manage their employees, tell them what to do, and you rarely see a boss on the front lines. A leader inspires, innovates, and creates leaders within their ranks, and Mike was a leader. He inspired even the youth to come to our union rallies because he was there on the front lines in the pickets. He inspired us to become leaders and speak our minds and not hesitate when we need to fight and speak about our rights, our securities, and our insecurities at times. He always had an open door. When I was an apprentice, I remember Mike and Joe always at a rally or a union meeting at the time when a lot of our members were weak in a recession, where we had members that took their own lives, where we had members that didn't know where that next plate of food was going to come from. And they stood before the membership and inspired us to stay together, be united, that without us as a unit, as a family, we will never be able to overcome the struggles that happened during those times. And luckily, because of their fight, today, right now, we're probably in the best stages and moments in our careers because the IBEW is stronger than ever, with innovative, renewable energy, bills that they fought for at that time. I can't stress how important it was that Mike and Joe stood before us in the times when we all struggled as a membership and gave us that motivation to keep going forward. There was a time that I remember that I was on a job as an apprentice, and I had a journeyman tell me that, you know, there was a lot of struggles going on the job. They had a lot of members there, and there was a lot of chaos. It was a time when you know, it was rare to see a lot of unity within different trades. And he told me that, you know, I had a conversation with him, and I said, well, you know, maybe the business manager can show up on the job and, you know, give the membership a little bit of motivation. He said, kid, are you crazy? I never seen in my 30 years a business manager ever come to a job site. They stay behind the office, and you never really see them. And this was a journeyman from another district, another jurisdiction, as we call it. And I had a little bit of courage, not too much, to go into the office, and I spoke to Joe and Mike, and I said, you know, Mike, we've been fighting hard over there on that job site, and the guys are dying to see you. They want to show you all this nice, beautiful pipework we laid out, because I didn't want to tell them what really was going on. I said, you know, we did some crazy, you know, 6 bend saddles, you know, which that's not even heard of because we only go to 4. I said, and we had, you know, some miraculous, I mean, you got to come see this. This was some innovative project in Providence Place Mall. I didn't expect them to be there the next morning, but they showed up. The face on that journeyman turned white because he had never seen a higher ranking official on a job site in over 30 years. And he's coming from Massachusetts, our sister local that's much more powerful than us. They both were there. That fire, that pride, I can never explain it to you other than taking you back to that moment as an apprentice. I had only 2 years in the trade. It showed me what I was getting myself into. It wasn't a job at that moment. It was a family. It was a culture. And we stuck together no matter what. Through the tough times and the good times. And Mike always instilled in us that the door was always open. And when he gave me the privilege and joke to come into the office as the organizer, which I didn't know what I was getting myself into, there was a lot of congratulations and condolences. I know why the condolences came in now that I'm, but he said, I want you to always remember one thing, listen. Listen to your members and listen to everyone, and everything, no matter how crazy it will be, you will find a resolution to it, because just you listening to them will give you that knowledge of taking it forward. Don't react. And that's the difference between bosses and leaders. They listen. That's why they called them the gentlemen of the building trades. The gentlemen. He wasn't smart, he was wise. And you know why? Because smart people always know what to say. Always. But wise people know when to say it. And he had always a time for everything, of when to say it, when to react, and that's why we're here today. And thank you, Mike, and we love you.
Aloha! Mahalo to all my friends for being here. Usually I don't start crying until after I start speaking. Mike and Alvin, you're killing me here. Honestly, I just don't have the words. As you can see, I didn't prepare any remarks, because usually I do, and then, yeah, it goes in the trash anyway. So 43 years ago, this month, I raised my right hand and took an oath. And I thank God every day that I had that opportunity. The labor movement is not dead. We've only begun to fight. The fight is never over, Brother Parisi. It's never over. We lose some battles along the way, but we're going to win the war. We are going to win the war. And I see it happening every day with the likes of Brother Reyes. It's the youth. They're starting to get it. My son, Michael, he's going to be another member of the Rhode Island Labor History Society. He's in the Teachers Union. They're getting it. They're getting it. We need to organize. We need to come together and fight the fight. Fight the fight. That's what it's all about. My grandfather, God rest his soul, 1919, took the same oath I took 43 years ago. That's how it all started with me. And I count my blessings every day, because I would never have what I have. I never would have been able to provide for my children what I was able to provide, or leave to my membership what I've been able to leave. It wasn't about me. I know Saturday night, some of you may remember some of these remarks, but it's not about me. I didn't get involved as an officer for me. If it was about me, I would have just stayed working with the tools every day and go home at night and Thank you. It's about the membership. It's about our brothers and sisters and their children and their grandchildren. And that's what it's all about. That's how we are gonna win this war. We're gonna win. We are gonna win. There's no doubt about it. I look out at Brother Nee. I mean, how many battles has he fought over these years? Brother Malloy, all of us in this room, we've fought the battles. They're going to continue to be fought. And we have to be strong. And we have to leave to our membership. We need to guide them and show them. You know, Brother Reyes, he's, you know, and Mike D'Amico. I love Mike. He's a great guy. And the first time I met Mike D'Amico, Coke and Electric, we worked together, and fortunately, I grew up in a wonderful family, and I was taught you treat people the way you would like to be treated. And that's the way I always looked at it. On the job site, yeah, I would be the boss. Okay, I got to tell you what to do. But is it that difficult to say please or thank you once in a while to somebody? Good morning. Have a nice night. Hope all is well with your family. It's not that hard. At the same time, you know you have a job to do. And Mike's right. Don't get my Irish up, because let me tell you something. When I blow, I blow. Janine Shadia, who is not here tonight, if she were, she would tell you. There were a couple of times she saw me. The hard hat went flying across the room as I'm screaming at the general superintendent. So, yes, I can get angry, and when you get that Irish going, you'll know it. So I want to keep my remarks short, obviously, because Mike and Alvin took most of my time, and I know Brother Riley's looking at his watch. We gotta get out of here, right? So thank you very much, everybody, for coming. Love you. God bless the Union.
Well said. Nadine Gregg is co-treasurer of the Rhode Island Labor History Society. Her middle name is Fabulous, and you'll find out why. She works at Citizens Bank, and you may know a relation of hers. Her grandmother is Vicki Gregg. Vicki, stand up so at least somebody can take some pictures of you for once. Come on, stand up. She's been taking pictures of us forever. Nadine, come on up.
Does this go down a little bit? Yes, cute does run in the family, if that's what you were wondering. Good evening, everybody. In our 34-year banquet history, the Rhode Island Labor History Society has strived to honor the great champions of labor, and it is my honor tonight to introduce one of them, Mr. Paul Valletta Jr. I don't want to say that you got the most tick marks when I was ticking people off downstairs, but you have a lot of people here, so I'm just throwing that out here. Not that it's a competition, everybody's great. A born and raised Rhode Islander, Paul was sworn in as a firefighter for the city of Cranston in 1984, and his spirit for the labor movement was immediately ignited. After only a year, Paul was elected as a member of the executive board of the Cranston Firefighters Local 1363, which he would later become the president of in 2002. In his capacity as a board member, Paul worked tirelessly to ensure that all firefighters in Cranston had the proper training and safety equipment, as well as guaranteeing that the best safety procedures were in place. In 2006, as president of Local 1363, Paul saw the Employee Assistance Program was lacking the tenets needed to really support the broad range of mental health and substance abuse issues that were plaguing many of the firefighters, and he became a staunch advocate for a membership assistance program that addressed a broad range of mental health, financial health, and substance abuse issues. In getting this great benefit implemented, the Cranston Firefighters EAP became the model of firefighters locals across the state and country. For over 14 years, Paul Valletta has worked as a lobbyist for the Rhode Island State Association of Firefighters. His efforts were directly responsible for maintaining strong safety initiatives that were in place for firefighters across the state, and for helping to institute overtime for firefighters who work more than 42 hours in a week. Paul's magnum opus to date as a lobbyist may be in his work on the cancer presumption that was passed last year. This presumption secures accidental disability pensions for firefighters and their families, both active and retired, who contract cancer as a result of such a dangerous career. Paul served in every position as a firefighter, making it to Deputy Chief of the Cranston Fire Department in 2017. In 2019, as acting chief, when Paul was given the opportunity to become the permanent fire chief for the city of Cranston, and one more showcase of his union loyalty and commitment to the Rhode Island firefighters, Paul chose to retire and focus full-time on his lobbying efforts and continued work for the Rhode Island State Association of Firefighters. I spoke with Joe Andrioli, the president of RILHS. I asked for funny stories, but what happens with the firefighters stays with the firefighters. It's like a Vegas thing. So I'll let you share the funny stories if you have any. In speaking with him, he told me that they're all so proud of the work that Paul has done as a lobbyist, but most importantly, they consider him to be a great friend. He's been Joe's right hand in leading the organization, and his talent and wisdom have made his job so much easier. I also spoke with the current president of Local 1363, Scott Robinson, who mirrored the sentiments of Joe. He called Paul one of the most self-sacrificing people he has ever met. Paul mentioned to me that his mentor, the person that pushed him and guided him the most, was the Lion of Labor, Mr. Frank Montanaro. Scott said, Paul to me is what Frank was to him. His training and guidance has helped me tremendously, and it is directly related to him that our last contract had such strong language in supporting our local. Paul is a strong believer in union solidarity. He is a longtime executive board member of the Providence Labor Council. He truly believes in supporting unions and the work that they do to keep our cities and our states running. He has supported numerous picket lines, and during this pandemic, went out of his way to secure masks and PPE for other unions. Besides being, that's a big one. Besides being such a strong labor leader, lobbyist, and of course friend, Paul's also a great family man. His wife, 2 daughters, and granddaughter, as well as the families of the men and women in uniform, and protecting those families is why he's done all of this great work that he's done in his over 35-year career. As a Cranston resident myself, I'm so thankful that Paul is protecting the safety and well-being of the firefighters who've been protecting our community. It is my absolute pleasure to bring to the stage this evening Mr. Paul Valletta Jr.
Just for the record, unlike Mike Daly, I have never lost my temper. Violence never solved anything, Michael, you know, so. This is truly an honor. Thank you, Nadine. That was very good. Thank you for those kind words. I'd like to thank the officers and executive board of the Rhode Island Labor History Society, Jimmy and his cohorts for this great honor. It's always better, it's much better getting it from people that have lived labor and people that I respect so much for what they do. I'd also like to thank Jeanette, Mike, and Jack. It's a pleasure and an honor being on the program with you tonight. Before I get into my, thank you. Before I get into my words tonight, I wanted to take a moment to give a special recognition to what we've now known to become as essential workers in the state of Rhode Island and quite frankly across the country. People that normally, union people that normally, before this pandemic hit, you probably wouldn't even notice them. You know, our grocery workers, our people that work in nursing homes and take care of our most vulnerable, our laborers who stayed on the job and kept our infrastructure and building going, our teachers buying into homeschooling, which we all know isn't the best thing, but they bought into it and they worked on it, and our kids didn't lose a year of school. Just think about that. If they lost a year of school, all their graduation days would be pushed back a year. So many people that we've taken for granted. I'm trying to think, I hope I don't miss anybody. But essential workers, they're now essential workers. And our nurses, and the funny thing is, you know, our nurses, what they did during this pandemic, and last week we had to go to a friggin' picket line in Fatima for what they're trying to do to them. Already forgot. Heroes to zeros. Already forgot. So I don't have to tell this group, but I wanted to give that shout out because we know how important they are, and I think we have to let everybody know how important they are. So, I'm not here, obviously. Oh, one other thing. I want to thank our elected officials that join us tonight. They've been so respectful of the men and women that I represent up at the State House by what Nadine talked about, some really important legislation that we've gotten passed in the last few years to protect firefighters. That's all it is. It's not putting money in our pockets. It's not giving us any more benefits. It's just a protection that if we get sick or we die in the line of duty, our families are protected and taken care of. And that's the way it always should be. So I want to thank them. And that's not because of my boyish charm up there. That's because they respect what we do, and I appreciate that. So this next part I'm going to try and get through. Mike started tearing up, and he got me going tearing up, but I was doing pretty good until then. So why am I up here? I'm up here for a few reasons. First of all, I'm up here for the two most important people in my life. I'll get through this. My mom and dad, who aren't here anymore, but they're here. My dad was a kid from Federal Hill who joined the Marines at 18, lost his leg on Iwo Jima, and came back, raised a family. And I can always remember him working 3 jobs to make ends meet. And that's where I got my work ethic from. I got my love of family and how important family was from the nicest, kindest woman that was ever on this earth, and that was my mother. That's where I get all my family and how important family is to me from them. I wouldn't be where I am today without my boys from Cranston. They elected me to an elected position 35 years in a row. We got a lot of good things accomplished in Cranston for the firefighters there, for the protection, again, of their families and them if they get hurt. Some of the guys that are here tonight, I'll call them the old guys. Some of the new guys are here too, but I'll call them the old guys. We were together for years as an executive board. They were my executive board in my offices. And we were a great team. Some of us were together for 30 years. And everything that we have, everything that some may say because I was the president, I accomplished, I could not have done without you guys. But more importantly, they always had my back. And they're the best friends and best brothers you could ask for. Except, of course, for my little brother Joseph. But no, and more importantly, we spent a lot of time together. We had some tough years we went through where we saw each other more than we saw our families. And we may have disagreed sometimes, but that's what you have to have in a meeting. You have to have people talking to you. You have to get different views on things. But we never were at odds with each other. We never had an argument with each other. That's amazing. Not 9 guys with different views, and we always worked things together, and we made what was best for the people in Cranston and the firefighters. But more importantly than anything, they were always there for me in the good times, but more importantly, in the bad times. And I've had some bad times, and I'm here because of you guys. Thank you. And then there's the new guys, the new executive board, continuing the tradition of what we left, and they're doing a great job. And them too are my friends, and I know they've got my back. And it's good to know that the active firefighters there still have my back. And thank you guys for being here also. I'd like to thank the members of the Rhode Island State Association of Firefighters for allowing me to be their voice at the State House, allowing me to continue as I retired from the Cranston Fire Department to continue to fight. Maybe I shouldn't use that word. To continue to support people up at the State House, but it's an honor to go up there and be the voice of the firefighters up there. And I want to thank the other departments that joined me here tonight, Portsmouth, East Greenwich, Warwick. I want to thank you for being here, along with my Cranston guys. It's been, I stand up here and I'm the one getting the award or the recognition, but I am so lucky that I have these people in my life, because all of my brothers throughout the state, I know they're only a phone call away if I need something, and they'll be there for me. And your friendship, all of your friendships mean the most to me. The Rhode Island labor community. I'm fortunate to be on the AFL-CIO Executive Board. I'm fortunate to be on the Providence Central Labor Council's Executive Board. But the friends I've made in labor, I'm getting this recognition because of what I gave to labor. But what labor has given back to me in friendship can never be measured. The friends I have at the AFL-CIO, the Providence Labor Council, the Institute of Labor, all these, working Rhode Island, all these union people that come together, and I always say they can never beat us. If we stick together, nobody beats us. We can only beat ourselves, and we do stick together in Rhode Island. But just being a part of all those groups and all of you being my friends mean the world to me, because you truly know what brother and sister, union brother and sisters mean. And last but not least, I'm going to try and get through this one. I'm going to be real good. Last but not least is my family. We all know as labor leaders the time it takes away from our families. If you're going to be good, if you're going to be good at what you do, you have to be accessible to your members 24/7. And coming from a job that I came from, where we operate 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, there are a lot of times we'd be getting that late night call and we'd have to leave. And we all know, everybody in this room knows, the family support has to be there, because you can't do this if the family support's not there. You just can't, because you're dealing with so much, and you have to have that support. and I have been very fortunate to have that support. I want to thank my wife, Michelle, for your love and your support over the years, allowing me to do what I do. And these next three I kind of like a little. My daughters Kerry and Amy, and my Valentina, my granddaughter. I'm also joined tonight by my little brother Joseph. He's a Cranston school teacher. Very proud of him. My sister-in-law Barbara. She's also a teacher at Parkview. And my little nieces Gabrielle and Isabella. And even though they're 19 and 16 respectively, I still call them, they're my little, because I'm not giving in that they're growing up. And I just want to shout out to my two partners at the State House. You guys keep me sane, Tony and Mark. So, and see, that's what I'm saying. You know, we hang out at the State House, and they've become two of my very good friends. And that's what I'm talking about, where I may be standing up here and receiving this recognition. What you've given me back from my firefighters and my labor family in Rhode Island, it'll never match it. So thank you so much, and have a nice day.
Hey, Paul, you get one of these too. Thank you. You got us okay here? Okay. Oh, you get all this swag too.
All right, thank you.
By the way, besides this really nice nice board that we give to all of our winners tonight, they're also getting a citation from the Speaker of the House and the Senate President, as well as the Secretary Treasurer, and the Treasurer and the Secretary Treasurer. All right. Well, I want to recognize my state representative who's here tonight, Greg Amore. And I want to also recognize my state senator, Val Lawson. Past president of the East Providence Education Association, and vice president of the NEARI, and she's here to introduce our final honoree.
Thank you, Jimmy. Good evening, brothers and sisters. It's my honor to be part of this program this evening, and I'd like to extend my congratulations to this year's recipients, Jack Hallisey, Mike Daly, and Paul Valletta, all deserving recipients in the pride of their respective unions. I have the distinct honor and pleasure to introduce my friend and former Unicef Director, Jeanette Wooley. And for those of you in the room who are unfamiliar with the term Unicef Director, in your world, it's similar to a business agent. Jeanette's career began at URI with AAUP, but she spent over 30 years as a Unicef Director at NEARI, where she was a fierce advocate for the locals she represented. Jeanette was my Unicef Director, and I was the newly elected president of the East Providence Education Association when we encountered the unethical city council under Joe Larissa and the school committee under Tony Caccieri. They were responsible, as you all know, for the unilateral implementation of our contract, who tried to destroy the collective bargaining process in our community in East Providence. Jeanette's work with our local was invaluable during this crisis. And for those of you who know Jeanette, know of her commitment to the members she represents. And believe me, and many people at those 3 or 4 tables over there will tell you, she's a formidable adversary. She's tough as nails and has a voice of reason. In our local, the East Providence Education Association was fortunate. She was with us for every step throughout the process to provide guidance. Because the bargaining process was a sham, fabricated, we went through arbitration, a political process, and then we removed that city council and school committee from power, and then we finally achieved a contract down the line, and thanks to her efforts along the way. Her work was instrumental in helping the East Providence teachers to cope and recover from one of the worst labor disputes in Rhode Island. Jeanette and I will be forever linked in this shared experience. Had its tough times, but there is a lot I've learned. I'm truly grateful that you were there for me, professionally and personally. And I know my experience working with Jeanette was not unique. She provided that same guidance to many other NERI locals in their presidents over their tenure at NERI. And many of them I've talked to. One of her famous lines, and I remember this distinctly as being a brand new local president, and I'll use Jack Callisey's line this evening, was to make sure you cover your throat. So that's one of the things that I'll always remember. But tonight we celebrate Jeanette's exceptional work and commitment to the labor movement. I'm proud to have her as my friend and present her to you this evening as an honoree. Thank you.
Great crowd. Oops, all right. I'm honored to be here this evening and grateful to be one of the recipients of this award. My sincere thanks to Jim Parisi, president of the Rhode Island Labor History Society, as well as its executive board. I also want to congratulate my fellow award recipients, Jack Callisey, Mike Daly, and Paul Valletta. I feel fortunate to have been a part of the Rhode Island labor movement, both with the AAUP at the University of Rhode Island, as well as the years with my NEA Rhode Island family. I want to thank Larry Pirtle, NEA Rhode Island president, Bob Walsh, its executive director, John DeCubulis, our general counsel, and John Lydecker, as well as the Unicef staff I worked with for their consistent support and mostly wise advice. My thanks as well to the many talented and dedicated union leaders I had the privilege of working with. And Val Lawson is clearly one of those individuals. Val was the president of the East Providence Teachers Union in 2008 during what was possibly the most unstable and chaotic time in the history of the East Providence school system. There were a number of factors, not in our favor, that were present at that time. Our contract had expired in October of 2008. East Providence had a newly elected school committee chair, Mr. Anthony Carcieri, who was clearly not a friend of labor or teachers. And yes, he was the cousin of Rhode Island Governor Donald Carcieri, who had passed a major tax cut in 2006 for Rhode Island's wealthy. And finally, we had a city council that had consistently underfunded the school system. So it became clear to the East Providence Teachers Union early on that there would be no collective bargaining. Instead, in 2009, as Val pointed out very clearly, the school committee made unilateral cuts in teacher compensation and benefits, amounting to roughly $9 million, with about $1.3 million of that spent on legal fees. The economic impact on teachers was dramatic. And at that time, from my perspective, it looked as though the school committee and the city council were intent upon destroying the school system, and they almost did. East Providence teachers worked under those economic conditions until we reached an agreement on a new contract in February of 2013. But prior to that contract settlement in 2010, both the school committee and the city council seats were up for re-election. So at this time, the East Providence teachers were a part of an organization known as Working East Providence, which was a local labor group formed in 2009 through the AFL, which was primarily in response to the school committee's actions in making the contractual cuts without bargaining. So with the support of George Nee, as well as two fairly accomplished and experienced organizers, John Faria and Pat Crowley, both the school committee and the city council members were ousted. While we have seen in some states a move to weaken or eliminate at least bargaining in the public sector, primarily sponsored by conservative Republicans, unions have successfully fought back. In Rhode Island, I'm confident that labor and unions will continue to play a crucial role in stemming the tide of inequality in the workplace. Once again, I am so honored to receive this award, and I thank you very much.
Some nice citations for you, and we're going to have you the 50-50 one, too.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, that leaves the last two items on our agenda, which is a 50-50 raffle, and of course the iconic Solidary Forever, which you all enjoy every year. All right, I can't believe how much money you raised. You want to get? Come on, yeah, come on up. You know, I used to do this. But now Desiree, I mean, I can't raise half the money she raises. Yeah. Although I will say this, you remember a few years ago when I promised you that if you bought a 50-50 ticket that you would win? And you did win. I promised everyone that night that they were going to win. But I was right with you.
Did you tell them? Did you tell them how much it was?
Oh, by the way, it's $1,550, you generous buggers, you. Here. $262-6267. Look close at that ticket, Vicki.
No, that's not the number. That's the phone number of the person.
Wait a minute, I forgot the area code.
It's good that we wait till the end.
Vicki, is your number 6461822?
No, I have your tickets. Don't you worry.
One, 822. Vicki, you won. Now we're all going to take your picture, Vicki. Look at all that scuttle. Look at all that lettuce, Vicki. Okay, thank you all. It's been a fabulous night. We got some solidarity forever for everybody. Safe home. Thanks for coming. All the best.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of Labor Vision. We appreciate your input and encourage your comments. Labor Vision can be seen on this channel 3 times each week: Tuesday at 7 p.m., Thursday at 8 p.m., and Saturday at 5 p.m.